So welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at the brand new edition of Mark Herman's Empire of the Sun, and it's Pacific War 1941 to 1945. Now this is not in any way some obscure game. This is a very popular game, a game that a lot of people have preconceptions about. It's a big game, it's a long game, it's a very intensive game, requires a lot of cerebral thought and a lot of input and a lot of learning the rules, and whilst those preconceptions aren't necessarily unjustified, this is a fantastic game and it is well worth all of that input. You do get a fantastic game out of it. So, what I'm doing today is, this is the new edition, just came out, tail end of 2018, early 2019 from GMT. And this is my previous edition, and you'll notice this is the second edition. It was from 2015. This is the second edition, but it's the second printing from 2018. So it's 3 years between these two. And the biggest thing that you'll notice, because I wanted to show you the actual differences side by side, the biggest difference is this comes in a big 3-inch box. Huge box. A box which the original second printing warranted anyway, I believe. So that's the biggest difference. You can see these are all of my cards for this. They simply don't fit in this 2-inch box. I have here, this is all of the Allied deck, all of the Japanese deck. I mean, look at the 2-inch box. I mean, deck of cards are pretty much the same size as the box almost. And then I also, so I keep them in little baggies, and here I have the sleeved cards from Plan Orange, which is in C3I issue. So I have all my cards in these little sandwich bags, which I keep separate. Don't have to do that with this new edition. And that's a huge plus for me. If I've got a nice game, I want to keep everything in a box. So that was kind of a big deal for me. Outside of that, oh, I'm upside down on that one. That's not good. It's a crime. Exactly the same stuff here. It's kind of got a 9 suitability for Solitaire and a 7 complexity rating. This has a full Solitaire bot in it. And that's one of the big differences that I'm excited for in a new edition. They totally revamped the Solitaire card-driven system, which will be very interesting to see how different and how well that plays out. So let's just crack open the new box and the old box, and we'll kind of see what we've got here. Nice 3-inch box. So, Rules, 2018 edition. Mine is, I actually met Mark at WBC, which is very nice. He signed my copy because I'm a nerd. Okay, V3.0, 3.1. It's probably hard to tell how nice this new rulebook is compared to mine. Look at the coloration. But this has gone through a lot of reading, and it's all dog-eared, and it's in good shape, but it's well worn. Let's call it that. Pages wise, though, 56 pages back to front. 52 pages back to front. So you do have an extra couple pages in here, and just looking at it, 24, index and bibliography, 4950, index. It looks like, okay, well, it looks like the biggest difference is that there's more sequence of play, outline of play. It sounded like there was more indices and more stuff in the back. Yeah. So the index looks probably the same. Bibliography is the same. It looks, well, I'm not sure. Maybe your extended examples are better here. Yeah, I think there's more. There's just more. Oh, okay, this is why. This has the whole extra scenario in it for South Pacific. And that's one of the big things with this new edition. Yeah, that's not in here. You see that's totally void from this old edition. So, after Empire of the Sun came out, I think, gosh, I want to say it was C3I 30. Oof, don't quote me on that. Had a scenario, and it came with this map, and you used counters and cards from Empire of the Sun. It was this whole extra scenario, which was a good way to learn the game system, but actually had a different scale and some different rules in it. It was really, really cool. That's actually included in this new edition, so that is a bonus. And I actually really like that they included that. It's very cool of them. So that's why The rules book is a bit bigger. Other than that, it looks to be quite similar. Let's see. Arrange. So this is the card-driven solitaire system, and it has here, this is a good 12 pages of how to use the Erasmus bots, because that's what this system's called. Now, the original game has that same thing, but it's literally a bifold. So you've got at best 3 pages. This has those same pages here at the beginning, but it has a full sequence of play, how to use it all, and I can promise you this makes this so much more accessible. Because I'll be honest, using the old card-driven system, this was fine, but there were times where just chugging through the solitaire bots, and we'll get there, it was, I'm just like, I'll wait just to get an opponent. This looks like it's much more easy to pick up, which is very, very nice. Okay, so this is this South Pacific breaking the Bismarck barrier scenario. This is printed on card, which is nice. I want to say the C3I version was paper, but I don't remember. So this is kind of a small snippet from the map, and I think it's blown up a tiny bit, and it's a slightly different scale, and there's different rules about how and what you can move and where everything works. It's a little bit streamlined because you don't have the huge kind of grand tactical nature of the Pacific Theater. Not worrying about a lot of extra stuff, but you still have things like Chinese government status, war in Europe track. But it's this kind of condensed little version to help learn the game. And this is a really fun extra little scenario if you don't have time to set up the full game. So I do recommend taking a look at that. Okay, play aids. Combat tables. Outside of it looks like some different coloration just to help make it a bit easier there. I don't know if there's been actual changes, but it looks fairly, almost identical. And I wonder if, let's see. It looks like, do I have 2 of those? No. I think there may only have been 1 in the older version, but they give you 2. I may have lost mine, but they give you 2, which is very nice. These are the old solitaire bots. We'll get there in a second. So we have reinforcement schedule. These are pretty much identical. The big difference you can see is the printing coloration. I don't know if you can actually pick up on that. Mine's a little bit darker. They've kind of lightened it up. This is much more in line with what the counters look like. They're not quite so brazen blue. So they've made that a bit more in line with what you actually get. Same with the Japanese one here as well. Those are single-sided. Okay, you get some bifold play cards. Original one has 1 bifold. This one has 1 bifold as well, seemingly. Let me see if there's another one in here. It doesn't look like it. No. Okay. And now we're going to get to one of the biggest differences in this game, and it's these solitaire bots. So the original solitaire bot, it was fine. It worked. Let's just say here. But it was a case of, here's how to select cards that'll be used. There was a matrix for activating task forces and all this kind of stuff. But then there would be like the middle turn, so turn 4 to turn 8, and if you haven't captured Saipan. So this is kind of opening stuff, and then you get to middle game, task force creation, and then there's let me just dig it out. Is it in here? Here we go. There's like a late game. So you'd be flipping through these folders. Halfway through the game, you put this one away. This is the late game stuff if you got there. And the same with the Japanese, right? This is Allies controlled port within 8 hexes of Tokyo. This is very much that late game stuff. But the opening phase is here, and the middle phase is here. And you'd be going through these different flowcharts. Does it do all of these things? Then yes, do all of these things as much as possible. That's pretty much how it goes. Or went. Go. Come on, man. What was tough about this, I felt, was all of the notations about making task forces and doing that. and there were some collocations and shortening of words, truncations and things that made it difficult at times to follow what I was supposed to do intuitively. And it looks like, I'll be honest, just from an aesthetic standpoint, this is much more, for me at least, accessible. I studied science, I'm a biology major, so I like things that are procedural in a mechanical way. I like to be able to follow a flowchart to a logical conclusion, have it broken up and easy to remember in bits. And what you'll notice is there's only two, instead of these 3 bifolds, they've made 2 trifolds. So this is the allied one, and in the same way, so you got this trifold, but it's a lot of fairly simple to follow, and at least pictorially speaking, flowcharts. And again, you got endgame stuff, all phases for reactions, task force composition in all phases, card selection in all phases. This is endgame determination, mid-game determination, and early game determination. So I like that each player's got one. It's a little bit easier to handle. I think that's going to be a bit easier. Same thing with the Japanese bot as well. This is honestly one of the biggest things. Yeah, you get that extra scenario, which is really, really good, but this is a huge deal, and I think it's going to be a big deal for a lot of players here who are picking up this edition. I think this is going to be easier to play Solitaire than it ever has been, and I think that's something to look forward to with this game. This is the old bifold played card, which was the same as the other one that was in there. So we have counters. Mine are punched, so it's going to be hard to compare these. But for a game that has such a kind of intense reputation, it is 1.5 counter sheets. This game is not complex because there's a ton of pieces. It's complex because there's a ton of choices. And it's a game that you should not be scared of, because the choices that it provides you with are very, very satisfying. And you will win and lose based on your choices that you make. Now, one thing I did want to check is that I think that there is a couple of new counters here over the old ones. I just wanted to make sure. I think, alright, I don't know which one for sure, but one of these Marine divisions is new, and I know that because in a C3I issue there was an errata counter, and I would be very surprised if it wasn't in here. And the other thing that I believe is also new, is it on this sheet? I think it's on this one, is the Bridge on the River Kwai counter. Again, in C3I 32, there was a whole article about this counter, just one counter, and it was really, really good history and a nice way why they included this in here. And I just think that's really, really cool that they did that kind of stuff. So, the counters themselves are really, really good. You have kind of attack values, range values, and what you're looking for in defensive values. What you're looking at are the different colors for the Japanese. So you have, these are Japanese Army, these are Japanese Navy, and then also the Japanese naval ships. This is all the ships, naval ships. So the white and yellow, this inter-service rivalry, that's going to be a big part of your game. Trying to get the white and the yellow to work together can be very difficult at times. It can be the same thing for the American forces. They have U.S. Army, and then you've got U.S. Navy, Marines, a couple of Air Force, or U.S. Navy Air Force, or whatever it's called. And then boats as well. Again, it's impossible to get put, so you can't work together with those. And then there's some Commonwealth forces down here as well as the old little Dutch East Indies forces that start the game. Control counters, and a couple of Commonwealth ships there from the Royal Navy. And I think, yeah, Dutch and Kent is, I want to say this might be Australian, not sure about that. Either way, not a ton of counters in this game. And what I did in mine here is I have mine organized by their turn of entry. I believe all of these are set up for turn 1. Turn 2, you get this lot. Turn 3, you get this lot. Turn 4, you get this lot. Turn 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Game's 10 turns long. And everything else fits in here nicely. So if you do have a tray, that's how I organize mine. And that's why I never ever have to look at these. So I don't have to kind of set up and do that. I organize them in such a way where they do. It does this for me, which is very, very nice. I'm just going to double check. Yeah. Oh no. They did have the bridge on the River Kwai counter in the original. What I remember is that article in C3I just talked about that counter. And that article made a big impression on me. Just because seeing an article about a single counter in a game, you just don't see that very often. And this game has a lot of detail in it, and that's what I enjoy about this game. I have a couple of extra cards in here. They're not extras, but these are your pre-turn 1 cards, which I keep them separate because I never use these. And this one you just give to the give it to the ally player at the beginning of the game if you want it. We'll open up this here. So everything else that's in here, there's a big old insert, which I'm going to take out. Ton of bags, which I've got the counter tray, I don't need the bags. 2 D10s, games played with D10s, which is nice. And then the boards. We'll compare the boards. I imagine they're very, very similar. And the 2 decks of cards. The decks of cards are identical. And yeah, even from I guess, the old ones are slightly more blue. These are slightly kind of grayer. And the Japanese ones, ironically, these are slightly darker and the old ones are slightly lighter. But that's purely aesthetic and no functional value whatsoever. But the cards, I'll just show you the old ones because they're identical. You have great artwork on them. I love historical artwork. Love it, love it, love it. And you get the specific events of the artwork, which is very, very cool, but you can also ignore this and use them for arts points in various different ways. Very, very complex in the range of choices that you have. You can use these cards to do a lot of different things, but you will learn a ton by playing this game if you haven't played many Pacific Theater games before. But if you haven't played many Pacific Theater games before, this is a hell of a place to jump in. The maps are the last thing we're going to take a look at. And like I said before, I expect these to be very similar. So we'll take a look at my old one. She's got a lot of blue on her. But yeah, it's a really rich blue. All of the colors are very standard. You never confused as to who or what might be going on. Let's take a quick look at this overlay for South Pacific. It looks like it is exactly the same size. Basically it just sits right here. It's just this portion of the game board. If I take that off, it's identical. But the scale of the units in this battle is a bit more focused, and that's why the rules are slightly different. Close this bad boy up. And this is the new map. And this very tight bag. Let's get it open. I'll have to be laying books down flat on this one to get it folded up nicely. And there she is. I'll be honest, if there's a difference, I don't know what it is. Let's take a quick look. It might be ever so slightly. I don't know if that's really possible to tell. I want to say. Let me see if we can see this. I don't think it's possible for you guys to tell, but this is ever so slightly more muted in its printing. The fact that you can't tell won't make a difference to anyone, I'll be honest. But other than that, it's going to be an identical game board from the old one. And that's pretty much it. So this is the new edition of Empire of the Sun. If you haven't taken the plunge yet, this is very much the edition to get. It has an entirely revised Solitaire system, which is very exciting for me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of other players. It has the bonus extra scenario, which is a great place to kind of start learning the game, and gives you mini Empire of the Sun if you don't want to set up and play the full game as well. And it's got the latest edition of all the rules, and very, very importantly, comes in this huge 3-inch box. So you can take out that insert that was in there, you can put in all your cards, you can get bags or counter trays, and everything's still going to fit in. You don't have to be sad old lonely me with my cards out and baggy. So appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been an unboxing of the second edition, second printing of Empire of the Sun from GMT Games, designed by Mark